Hello there. Al Everson here from Spam Resource. Today I'm going to talk to you about deliverability success for Pardot, aka Salesforce Marketing Cloud account engagement. Deliverability meaning your ability to get mail delivered to the inbox. I'm going to guide you in a whole bunch of tips and tricks, best practices, tools you can use, and more. Recording this for January 2024. Who am I? I'm Al Everson. I blog at Spam Resource. I have been working in email and deliverability for more than 25 years. I, in fact, was director of deliverability for ExactTarget and the Source Marketing Cloud. Consulted for a number of clients, many clients over the years, on how to fix and improve deliverability for their sends via Pardot, or Marketing Cloud Engagement, as they now call it. So this is in my blood. This is what I do. And here's what I'm going to talk to today. Just give you a quick rundown of what I know on how you can best get started to position yourself for deliverability success when it comes to sending through the Pardot platform on Salesforce. It all starts from the beginning with setting everything up properly, making sure you are properly authenticating your mail, setting up DKIM authentication, that's domain keys identified mail. That's a self-serve thing you do when you set up Pardot. There's a link to their page there to show you where you do that and how you do that. It's very easy, just copy and paste a little bit of DNS into your domain settings. And then when you get started when sending out a Pardot, you'll want to warm up your IP address and domain. And what warming means is sending, limiting the volume you send, sending only a little bit of volume at first. But it's an absolute necessity for a dedicated IP address, dedicated sending IP address. Even if you're only on a shared IP address, if you're a tiny little sender just getting started with Pardot, you'll be starting out on a shared IP address, very, very probably. Even then, even though the Salesforce documentation doesn't necessarily touch on it, you'll still want to build your volume up slowly. Limit your first sends, split volume up over days, start with less volume on the first days and build it up over time to sort of introduce your domain to the world, introduce your sending from Pardot to the world. That'll really help set you up for best foot forward to minimize the chances of deliverability problems just from sending too much mail, too fast, too quickly, too newly. Now, this ties into new requirements from Yahoo and Gmail for 2024. They have a whole bunch of new requirements for senders. The Salesforce Pardot platform will take care of some of that stuff for you. There's headers that are required, like list, unsubscribe, one click. That'll be in there automatically. But there's also some requirements that translate directly to things you have to do or you have to be aware of. First is you have to authenticate your mail properly. Now, what that boils down to in Pardot is you have to set up that DKIM authentication as I talked about on the last slide. There's really no way around that. You have to do that, or you're going to run into trouble delivering mail successfully to Yahoo and Gmail just because of that lack of authentication. There's a little bit of an asterisk to some of this. If you're just only sending a couple messages a day, maybe you won't get noticed. But the fact of the matter is, we want to position you to do everything right so that you look like a good sender to mailbox providers like Yahoo and Gmail. And so that's one of the things you have to do. Now, secondly, you have to publish what's called a DMARC record, which is a domain setting that tells mailbox providers what to do about spoofed or unauthenticated mail. I don't go into that in much depth in this webinar. I'm going to have a separate webinar on January 10th where I talk about that in more detail. There's also an article coming out on Spam Resource that'll just be like the quick and dirty guide to setting up a DMARC record. So check out my Spam Resource blog and keep an eye out for that. Next requirement there is you must make it easy to unsubscribe. Goes without saying, you can't hide the unsub link. They've got to be able to find it. And that's where the platform level stuff comes in play too, with the one-click unsubscribe requirement. And finally, your spam complaint rates must stay low. The numbers thrown about have varied anywhere from 0.1 to 0.3%, and how they calculate that is going to vary as well too. Probably daily, but there could be some give and take there over time and as the mailbox providers adjust it. But the net here is that your spam complaint rates have to stay low. It means you have to be in a position to make sure you're sending wanted mail to people who want it. If you don't, complaints are going to be high. Gmail and Yahoo are going to notice that. They're going to block your mail. It's that simple. They're going to reject your mail. You won't get it delivered. Read more on the topic there. There's a link to the spam resource blog post that specifically talks about at a high level these new requirements. And there's a whole wealth of content on this topic on spam resource as well. Be sure to check it out. Now, as I just touched on this, right, keeping opt-in is very important. Opt-in performs better than opt-out anyway. And the fact of the matter is that anybody trying to sell you a list is probably trying to mislead you. A lot of list sellers don't have repeat customers because people tend to have really poor success trying to send to purchase lists. So don't waste your time there. It all boils down to who sets the rules. And the top ISPs for Pardot users, I recall from my time in Salesforce, are ones that I'm all familiar with, their policies. It's Gmail, Yahoo, Microsoft, Yahoo, Proofpoint, iCloud, Comcast. They all have opt-in requirements. They all have policies that say that mail has to be opt-in. It's so important that I've listed Yahoo there twice. That's how important it is. So at the end of the day, opt-in really matters because deliverability success is data-driven. Complaints are always going to be high, engagement's always going to be low when sending to third-party purchase data. It just doesn't work. There's more information there on that website that I put together with help from some friends that talks more about the good, the bad, and the ugly, the reason why purchase lists don't work. Now, on those last few slides, we talked about how to start things up, right, from the perspective of putting your best foot forward to minimize the chances of having deliverability problems. Then ongoing, it becomes a question of how do you know if things are going well from a deliverability perspective? How do you monitor to know if you're having trouble, if you're having mail getting delivered to the spam folder or getting blocked or what have you? And so it starts by looking at the reporting. Every platform's got their own built-in reporting. In this case, keep in mind that Pardot's open and click tracking is going to be a little bit limited with what you can do with it. It gets overinflated based on a couple of factors. In particular, with opens, it's because of Apple's Mail Privacy Protect. That's a feature introduced in Apple iOS and Mac OS a couple years ago that greatly limits the accuracy of open tracking by just about any means you can think of. So any sort of ESP platform tracking opens. Now in this new world of Apple MPP, those opens are grossly inflated. Those numbers are very overinflated. So you can't use open tracking the way you would have in the past to try to track individual subscribers. So you can't trust that on a per subscriber basis. You might still look at trends and look at percentages over time to see directionally, are opens going up and down, but keep in mind that opens are just not accurate anymore, all thanks to that Apple MPP mail privacy protection. Clicks are similarly impacted. They can be inflated as well thanks to bot activity, bots being scripts or security applications or even bad guys trying to do bad things, following links over and over and over. It can show up as grossly inflated clicks. You can look at your stats sometimes and wonder why you have 20,000 clicks on a campaign that was only sent to 800 people. Usually it's a security tool run amok. They don't, good guys don't intentionally do that. But the fact of the matter is it inflates the tracking and makes the tracking inaccurate. It'd be tough to deal with. Pardot does help with that, though, and I'll touch on that in a little bit in a couple of slides, and we'll talk about what Pardot can do for you there. So with those limitations, what do you actually want to do to be able to tell if mail's getting delivered successfully? My recommendation is to use an inbox testing tool. There's a whole bunch of them out there. They're very valuable. Unfortunately, some of them are priced like they're very valuable, quite expensive. But they're, one of them, the GLock apps one, for example, is not the most expensive one out there. So use one of those tools. Any of them can help you. There's other ones too if you want to Google them. The key there with any of these tools is to focus on their proof of inbox placement. Don't just plug your sending IP address or domain in a block list lookup and trust those results. Oftentimes, that can be misleading. There's, for example, there's 90 different block lists out there. Very few of them are actually connected to mailbox providers. In other words, Gmail does does not take data from all of those different block lists out there. They use a couple. And for example, Spamhaus being the most famous one that a ton of mailbox providers use. They don't say that they're in use of Gmail, but if you have a Spamhaus issue, you probably also have a Gmail issue. Anyway, point being that, don't plug your IP address or domain in there and see, oh my God, I'm listed on 30 block lists. I must have a deliverability issue. That's not proof of that. There's little correlation. It's not guaranteed. Focus on what you can actually measure and look at. Make sure that mail's getting delivered. And that's where here's a screenshot from GLock apps, right? The way these tools work, these inbox placement tools work, they'll have you take their seed list, their test list, include it in your sends periodically. They'll capture all the mail that you send to those addresses, and they'll build reporting for you that shows actual placement. Which folder did it go to? Did it go to the inbox or the spam folder? Which tab did it go to at Gmail? Promotions or updates or what have you. Very handy, very important tool to really understand deliverability and what the disposition of your mail is, and whether or not you have a deliverability issue or not. Now, I know opens. I said opens are not always trustworthy, but opens tracking is still good enough for this functionality to help you here. This automation, the settings inside of Pardot, right? You look up how you identify and suppress unengaged subscribers in Pardot's online help. I got a link there. This is very important stuff. This is what you want to do to help make sure you don't have deliverability problems later on. What you want to do is people who are never opening, never clicking, never interacting with your email messages, eventually you want to figure out how to get them off your list. They're dead weight, they're not engaging, and that is what the biggest mailbox providers like Gmail look at. They're looking for high positive engagement to decide whether or not you merit placement of your mail in the inbox. So more engagement is a good thing, and getting rid of people who aren't engaging helps boost those engagement numbers, and Pardot can help you do that pretty easily. So it's very important to do that. Now, I mentioned bot clicks a minute ago. Metrics Guard is a function of the Pardot platform that helps you specifically with this. They don't necessarily catch all bot clicks, but they can suppress a whole bunch of them, different criteria. They've got different filters or different lists of IP addresses and services that they try to filter those results out of your clicks because they think they're non-human interactions. So that's a good thing. That really helps you to sort of clean up and make your tracking more accurate. Might not be perfect, but it's still a great improvement. It still helps quite a bit. There's more details, more stuff you can do here too with reporting from Pardot, and the Salesforce Ben is an excellent outside blog that talks about this topic in more detail. So all of these are recommended follow-up reading if you want to learn more about how to address the problem of bot clicks in your Pardot reporting. Now, overall, you want to learn more about deliverability. We just touched base on the high points here of how to get started, how to monitor. Didn't go deep on anything beyond that, but certainly can on your own. I hope you'll visit my blog, Spam Resource, spamresource.com. Been publishing that since 2001. Other great blogs out there too, like Email Karma by Matthew Vernhout, Word to the Wise by Laura and Steve Atkins, Pardot Geeks and Salesforce Ben. Are both excellent blogs for folks in the Salesforce universe trying to understand how to improve themselves and looking for tips and tricks. Much of it deliverability related, but much beyond that as well. So very, very important to check those all out. I think they'll all be helpful for you. And finally, that demand gen link is just a one-off article that I noticed when I put this together originally. It helps you to understand in more detail about how to sunset inactive subscribers. More good detail there. And that is it. A short segment today. I hope you found it useful. Please feel free to visit my blog at spamresource.com. I hope you have a good success deliverability-wise, sending mail through Salesforce Pardot. Good luck to you and have a great day.